Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. This is Judy, and welcome back to our channel. Hey everybody, so today I'm very excited to bring you my review, my recap of episode 2 of season 2 of 1000 Pound Sisters on TLC. Very excited about it. Now, if you missed it on Monday, I posted a video on my channel that was kind of like an in-between video, in between episodes, because some stuff happened on social media that I thought might be fun to talk about, including Amy posting a baby registry, and I also reacted to a video that they posted on their channel that's not going to be in the actual episode. So if you want to go check out those or that video, I'll link it down below in a pinned comment and also somewhere up in the iCards. Now, before we get to this very exciting episode, was it exciting? I don't know if that's the word I would use, but this good episode, it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. But before we get to it, we're going to go to our girl, Judy Lou Who, and ask her to sing another hit cover. And we had a request for some Reba in the comments of my last video. So we're gonna hit it today with the Reba. Judy, give me your best Reba.
A single mom who works 2 jobs, who loves her kids and never stops, with gentle hands and a heart of a fighter. I'm a survivor.
Okay, very energized version of Reba today out here. But we love to see it. Thanks so much, Jude. We love you. If you have a request for Judy, leave it down below in a comment. I'd love to see what you want to see come from Judy next. Now, when I say this was a good episode, I feel like it was a good episode because it kind of gave me all of the feelings, like the range of feelings. Like, there were times where I was feeling very happy. There are times where I was feeling very emotional. I mean, to be fair, today I've just kind of felt emotional in general. But it was a good episode. It was. I felt a lot of different things. And when I'm watching television, I want to feel things, okay? And this episode did not miss a beat when it came to me feeling things, okay? So we got the episode started off and they just brought in Tammy into a confessional area and her breathing was staggered. And if you remember, the last episode left off where Tammy weighed herself in and was like, oh shit, I really undid all of that work that I had been doing. So we get a little bit of that and Tammy basically says like, you know what? I gave up. I gave up on myself. I gave up because I got bored because of COVID, which I still don't understand. I still don't quite understand how she got bored because of COVID, because I think we all know she wasn't really going anywhere anyways. It definitely kind of felt like a little bit of an excuse. But speaking of Lil Bit's back. Now, there were some folks who got a little frustrated that I didn't acknowledge Queen Lil Bit in her return. In fact, actually, Amy DM'd me and was like, Zach, was Judy happy to see Lil Bit? And Judy, I mean, you couldn't tell right now because she's like passed out. We're filming this a little bit later at night than we normally film. But Judy was thrilled. Judy was thrilled that Lil Bit was back. And I was too. I kind of forgot how cute Lil Bit is. Lil Bit is real cute, okay? Real cute. So anyways, I'm sorry that I did not mention that in the last recap video. But really, truly, this episode, even more so than the first, like, Lil Bit was a star. Lil Bit had a lot of cameos, okay? She had a lot of cameos. So then we get a little bit of a scene between Amy and Tammy, and it's just, I think, there to like get us set up for the events that are to come in this episode. So they talk a little bit about like getting ready to go to Atlanta to see Dr. Proctor. Amy, for some reason, says like, hey, we're only going this year because of you. We're only going to this doctor's appointment for you, so you gotta take control of this and motivate yourself this year, which is kind of weird in hindsight. Like, I didn't think much about it, but now that I'm like looking over my notes, it's kind of weird because no, Amy, we're also going for you, sis. Like, you just had bariatric surgery. I'm sure you still gotta go get this checkup, girl. Plus, not to mention the fact that you're pregnant And as is demonstrated in this episode, you are not eating the way that Dr. Proctor had asked you to eat. Tammy's response to Amy saying like, hey, sis, you gotta motivate yourself is, well, I only had myself last year. I had to do this on my own last year, which I'm just like, I'm calculus woman over here thinking, how did you do this alone? Because literally you're still not doing any of this alone. Like literally you have Amy and Michael there, and in this episode Chris is there. Like you haven't been alone, girl. You got people. And that's kind of what makes me sad. Is like what is going on and the way that she thinks about the world, that like she sees herself as not having these people there for her, because at least from what we see on the TV show, they are consistently trying to be there for her. They're consistently trying to help her make changes. And in fact, Amy's worried that she won't be able to be there because she's got to be a mother. This particular scene was one of the scenes that made me feel emotional in general. Amy starts talking to Tammy about how she wants Tammy to be there for her kid, and how she wants Tammy to be there for a little bit. And Amy's like, listen, I know that we need to be concerned about COVID, and traveling to Atlanta in the middle of this panorama is dangerous, but I'm willing to risk my life, Tammy, so you can get the help that you need. And there was something about her saying that just got me like choked up. I mean, like I just said, for real, Amy also needs to go and see the doctor. Like that is demonstrated throughout this episode, but that's just like, you know, they show us a lot of clips of these two fighting and arguing, but for me, I was just like, that is so sweet. Like, I sometimes wonder if, like, my own brother would be like, Zach, I would give my life so that you could live, or so you could get healthy. Like, I just thought that was so sweet. And honestly, it was also really hard watching this scene because, like, Tammy just seems so scared and hopeless. I don't think that she's not aware that, like, she needs to change something in her life. It just seems like she really doesn't know, like, how to get control of her life. So then we go to the scene where they are discussing Amy's pregnancy food cravings. And at the beginning, I gotta say, what the fuck are they feeding Lil Bit? Well, I mean, at first when I saw it, I wasn't quite sure. After watching the whole scene, it seems like they fed Lil Bit some lasagna and pineapple concoction, which just like, listen, Judy's on a prescribed diet, so she only ever gets the prescription food and occasionally a treat, okay? Occasionally a treat. Like, I don't know if it's okay to feed your dogs pineapple lasagna, but listen, here we are. Here we are. So they try a whole bunch of things that Amy alleges are good because she's got these pregnancy cravings. I already mentioned pineapple lasagna, but she likes to combine things with chips. So she has some sour gummies with chips. She has the peppermint patties with chips. They gotta be barbecue chips, she said. She also tries a gherkin with some lo mein noodles. It slayed me because there was one part where like Tammy was like,
bitch out of her mind.
And I was just like, kind of. Like, I know that pregnancy cravings are a thing, and it just was like wild. It kind of just seemed like she was looking for reasons to eat these things. Tammy was like, listen, I'm trying to be mindful, so I'm not trying any of this shit that Amy's eating. I'm trying to be mindful of the fact that we gotta go back to Atlanta. But I do think it's weird how much Amy is eating and then saying, oh, this is the baby. This is the baby. The baby told me to do this. That baby didn't tell you to do nothing. That baby is inside of your stomach, okay? It can't talk yet. It does feel a little weird to me that she's using it so much as like a reason, an excuse to eat. They do have a conversation, the two of them, Amy and Tammy, and Amy tells Tammy that she doesn't know what it's like to be pregnant, but Tammy very quickly comes back and says,
No, but I know what it feels like to be fat.
and I was just like, wow, like, okay, mood, like, for sure Tammy doesn't understand what pregnancy is like, but Tammy can spot another person looking for a reason to eat, you know, like, in that kind of way. I think that it's helpful for them to have each other, and I wish that Amy would listen a little bit to Tammy in that case, because Tammy's just I mean, you know that old saying, it takes one to know one? Well, Tammy is one, and she knows one, okay? Overall, though, Tammy's just worried that Amy's gonna make herself sick, which, like, is such a mood because everybody that I know in my personal life that has ever had any kind of weight loss surgery, gastric bypass, etc., has had issues with like overeating. Even small amounts of food that like you and I would probably think are normal make them feel like so full to the point that they're going to be sick. And it seems like that's what Tammy's concerned about. And I think that's realistic. But at this point in the episode, I'm like, I am kind of curious what Dr. Proctor is going to say to Amy, because this kind of seems out of control, but I've never been pregnant. I'll never be pregnant, so I can't really speak to like what that experience is like. And I mean, we do end up finding out what Dr. Proctor has to say about this, so have no fear. So they start heading out to Atlanta, and this time they're bringing along good old brother Chris and his wife, who is quite honestly giving me fundamentalist chic, Christian fundamentalist chic with that jean skirt. You know that look I'm talking about? She's giving me modesty and I'm living for it. But they're basically coming along to help with Tammy because Amy is pregnant and she doesn't think that her and Michael can, you know, look after Tammy in the same way. I kind of feel like it's like they just want to introduce another character and so they're bringing Chris along to add some more drama, add another plot line, add another storyline. And listen, if it gets us to season 3, bring it on. We will take brother Chris caring for Tammy and being her assistant on the way up to Atlanta. They also bring Lil Bit to Georgia, which is like super cute. Again, obsessed with Lil Bit. But like, did y'all see them all pack into the back of that van? I'm just like, where is Lil Bit gonna ride safely in this van? And you know, are they going to be able to take care of a dog on top of trying to take care of themselves on this long-ass journey to Atlanta? I don't know. I got a lot of questions, but as far as I know, Lil Bit's still around and it's still fine. So I guess it all worked out. But I just had a lot of questions. But they really did shove, like, Tammy, Amy, Michael, and a whole ass wheelchair into the back of that van. And they had Chris driving and Chris's wife in the passenger seat shotgun. So Chris is driving, like I said, and they have this whole thing where Tammy's like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that Chris is driving this time and not Michael, because Michael almost killed me. So then they have the little montage of last season where Michael was a horrible driver, and then catch my ass laughing. Now I know it's not right. I know I might go to hell for this, but the editing when they cut to the clip of Chris slamming on the brakes and Tammy crashing forward.
Oh, mother. I need to learn how to drive around here.
It's a stop sign.
Y'all, I lost my shit. I was cackling. Cackling. I know it's not right, and I really, please forgive me, and I'm glad that everybody's safe and nobody got hurt. But I did think that was some clever editing. And this is also the time where they show the clip from the trailer where Tammy's like, oh, I got a bottle lodged in my butt. It probably would have been funnier if I hadn't already seen it in the trailer, but I already saw it in the trailer. You know, you feel me? It's kind of like when you go to a movie and they've already shown all the good parts in the trailer. That was one of the good parts. They could have saved that for me. Because I probably would have thought it was a lot funnier had this been the first time I was watching it. For some reason, the road trip also inspired them to include a clip of Amy talking about a time where she and her family were in a car together and she ate some chili cheese chips and then she farted, and then Mama Slayton came in and she got sick from the smell of the fart, and so she threw up outside the car. I mean, we're talking about the highest, classiest of television shows here, y'all. But listen, everybody farts. That's our motto here at the Zachary Michael channel. They do follow that up, though, with a montage of all of the Slayton crew just flip-flapping and a farting away in the van. It was a little bit much for me. As much as I appreciate a good old fart montage, I could have also been just fine not having ever seen that. On the way to Atlanta, they make a brief stop at a petting zoo. I guess they just were like, we're gonna need some stuff to put some filler into this trip for this episode. And the most important thing I think that happened here was the struggle to push Amy in a wheelchair around the farm, to the extent that Chris said, nah, we're just loading you back up in the van and I'll drive you up and drop you off, because Chris was the one they assigned the wheelchair duty to. So he had to like pull her around, and he's not exactly in shape himself. And so he was struggling with that. And I don't know, it was all just like kind of sad on all parts. Like, I really would love to see them be able to do stuff as a family, but it's clearly like very hard for them to do anything as a family that involves a lot of like physical activity, or even not a lot of physical activity. I mean, they literally just had to walk up a like hill to get to a petting zoo, okay? So that was kind of like, I think a sad moment. We're riding these waves. They give us fart montages, and then they give us clips of Tammy not being able to be pulled in a chair. So they all finally make it to Atlanta, and one of the first things that they do is go fouling? I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. I don't remember how they pronounced it. But basically, it's kind of like bowling and football and bags all at the same time. It's a lot. I don't really get it. It definitely seems like something that y'all would have maybe in the South. I don't know. I'm not from the South, couldn't tell ya, but I've never heard of this. It does seem a little bit sus that they're going in the middle of a pandemic, but the place was empty, and I'm guessing what happened is TLC said, hey, I'm sure you're not getting a lot of business right now, so could we just come in and film this with just our crew and these people playing this game? And the people are probably like, listen, we're a small business and we need your money, so sure, yes, would love to do that. At some point, Amy decides to walk around barefoot, and she's like, I'm barefoot and pregnant, which leads us to a confessional scene where Amy shows off her crusty, dirty feet. I don't know why we needed to see that. But I guess TLC said, we're giving those of you that like feet a little special treat today, free of charge. There's another point where Amy was like, I think I peed a little bit. It was like at a point when a ball was thrown in her direction, and she's like, I did the hymen. And I think she meant I did the Heisman, like the Heisman Trophy, but she said hymen, which, like, I'm not an expert. But those are two. I'm not an expert in any of those things. Either of those things. Me, not an expert. But from my understanding, those are two very different things. But one of the things that everybody seemed to be really happy about was that Tammy was up and moving. She was participating. She was throwing the ball. She wasn't just sitting in her wheelchair, which is a vast difference than when they would do these little fun activities in the last season. Like, she would just sit, be a grumpus, not participate. So I do like that growth from Tammy. Like, I like to see that she's trying, that she wants to be a part of it. She wants to do things with her family. So they all sit down after they get done playing this weird game, and they have a little conversation. And the conversation quickly goes from like, oh my God, Tammy, queen, look at you participating. And it turns into, Amy, you're gonna have to do something. You gotta change your behaviors. You can't keep using this baby as a reason to just eat. Which, like, I think one of the things that some people might be watching and seeing and thinking is like, look at all of these people who have problems with eating, like telling each other, hey, you need to do better, you need to do better, you need to do better. But again, I think it actually is that, like, it takes one to know one. They are one, so they know one. They can see when other people are up to some bullshit. And so I think collectively, the whole family knows that they need to do better, but they have a hard time holding themselves and each other accountable outside of, like, saying, you need to do better. Then they don't do anything to, like, they don't follow up. They don't have the conversation about what happens if somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to. So that's the part of accountability that they're missing, right? They're doing the part where they say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, but then there's no expectations about what happens if said person doesn't do said thing. And that's like a big piece of accountability that sometimes people miss. Now, this part is really sad because Amy is very clearly emotional about getting this feedback from her siblings, and she even says at one point, like, I just want to enjoy this pregnancy. And I can't imagine what it would be like to have gone a good chunk of your life thinking that you're not going to be able to have kids, getting this opportunity to have kids, and then being stressed out and worried about like even just your own health, and being able to care for this baby and make it through the pregnancy, to then also be thinking about, like, I have to think about every single bite of food that's going in. But, Chris reaches out and tries to make an appeal to, like, hey, Amy, I don't want you to go through what I've had to go through as a parent, where I haven't been able to participate in my kid's life because I haven't been able to move around. I want you to be here for your kids. And I think that that's a little bit of a wake-up call for Amy. It's not quite there, but I think by the end of the episode, you'll see she gets there. But, like, at that point, it's kind of like, Amy's like, you know what? Like, I really do have to make some kind of change. So then they do the actual visit to Dr. Proctor. This is our first time seeing him this season. He is looking as good as ever. He is looking very attractive. I'm just like, Dr. Daddy, yes, sir. Okay. All right. So happy to see him on our screens again. He also notes that, like, they all went through COVID testing, so it's okay for them to take off the masks and things like that because they all got their COVID test back and they were negative, XYZ. Love to see a plan for safe interactions in a pandemic. So Amy and Michael go back to meet with the doctor first. Amy gets on the scale. She's weighed at 288 pounds. Dr. Proctor's like, you've only lost like 18 pounds in the past few months. Like, what's going on, sis? And she said, hey, I got a little secret. I'm pregnant. And she was like, listen, I didn't do this on purpose. I promise I was on a high dosage of birth control. And Dr. Proctor is like visibly disappointed to hear the news, but also like does congratulate her. He knows that this is something she's wanted. And he's like, listen, surgery makes you much more fertile, but it also makes pregnancies very high risk. And even if you hadn't gone through all of this, you would already be a high risk pregnancy. So we need to start taking this seriously. He's kind of like, what have you been eating? Like, we need to make sure we got nutrition here for this baby. Like, what are you eating? What's going on? And she's like, listen, this baby loves these sour gummies. And, we sometimes eat out, but I really like salad. And it's so funny because then they cut to a clip of a producer asking her in a confessional, like, hey, are you honest with Dr. Proctor? And she's like, I don't know. My baby brain sometimes makes me forget things that I ate. And I'm just like, you know what, though? That's more honesty than we usually get on these shows. Like, I watch a lot of My 600-Pound Life, and they are never, like, they would never be like, hey, Dr. Proctor, by the way, I love eating sour gummies on chips. Deal with it. Like, those people usually always, like, blatantly lie, and it's clear that she was trying her best to be honest. So in general, Dr. Proctor's like, listen, we're going to keep checking in. I am worried that you haven't been following any of my directions, but we do need to still focus on, like, getting you to a lower weight because it's going to help with your pregnancy. You need to follow my directions. You probably need to be, like, 150 pounds. And Amy's like, I'll shoot for 200. I don't want to be like anorexic skinny. And I think that that's like so interesting because as Dr. Proctor points out, like she's really short. She's like 5'4", and 200 pounds is still a lot of weight for somebody who's 5'4". According to Dr. Proctor. I'm not a doctor. I couldn't tell you that. But according to him, that's still a lot. So it's interesting how like our psychology makes us think about like how much we weigh, what's a healthy weight, what's not a healthy weight, and also just like what education tells us. So then it's time for Tammy and Chris to enter the room, and Tammy gets in, she weighs in at 595 pounds, and basically Dr. Proctor's like, listen, you're starting from scratch. Like, this is where we started at the beginning of season 1, girl. Where you been? What have you been doing? And he wastes no time telling her that, like, her COVID excuses aren't good enough. He's basically said what I said in episode 1, which was, sis, you don't go nowhere. You don't go nowhere even if COVID wasn't a thing. So how are you saying that this changed your lifestyle? Because it didn't, okay? It surely did not. So ultimately, Dr. Proctor's like, listen, I think you need to go see somebody else much closer to you. I'm going to hook you up with a colleague in Kentucky, which kind of, to me is like, why wouldn't TLC just hook her up with a colleague in Kentucky to begin with? But obviously, you know, the show was originally based in Atlanta because the purpose is like, hey, this doctor is going to do this weight loss show. And I think he does some other weight loss stuff for TLC. So that's clearly why they originally went there. And I'm guessing, in addition to it just being like safer for Tammy to go to a closer doctor, like it also makes things a lot less complicated when it comes to COVID. I mean, they're probably going to have to do a lot less when it comes to like accommodating the Slayton sisters on a trip to a doctor somewhere in Kentucky, as opposed to making this long ass road trip to go to Atlanta and then follow all of the COVID safety precautions. Tammy does seem a little bit upset. She does say that she feels like Dr. Proctor's giving up on her, but he really pushes that he's not giving up on her. He just wants her to see somebody that's closer, which I agree. I feel like he's still Team Tammy. He's still Team Tammy and Amy. He wants the best for both of them, as a doctor should, even when patients don't follow every single piece of advice that they are given. He also mentions that the next week, well, he doesn't say in the next week's episode that they're going to go see a bariatric psychologist, but he does tell them that while they're in Atlanta, they will. And we eventually see previews for that next week. So I'm interested to see that, because if you follow my channel, I'm a big proponent of therapy. I think it's great, so I hope that helps them out. And then the most emotional part for me is Dr. Proctor at the very end of the episode. He gathers them all out in the lobby, and he just starts to talk about his very serious concerns for Tammy's health. He says, listen, if she loses mobility, she's done. Like, that's it. And her chances of dying in the next 5 years are 80%. It's hard to explain why I personally got so emotional about this, but I have to say, and maybe it's just today, but of all the people I've ever covered on this channel, Tammy and Amy are easily two of the sweetest people, nicest people. They DM me all the time. They're not necessarily giving me like exclusive tea or anything, but they have DM'd me even in this past week a couple different times, and they're just so sweet. They're just so happy to like see people happy to be talking about their show, and hearing them say that to Tammy, like, really, I don't know, it made me sad, because not only have I watched them on the show, but I've watched them on YouTube for a long time. And yes, there are times where, even on her own YouTube channel, not even just like how she's been edited on TLC's show, where Tammy has come across as mean and rude and things like that. But like, ultimately, I genuinely believe that she's a sweet person. And it just really, like, it really got to me that it was that real. Like, I guess I just like feel like a different connection to Tammy and Amy than I do other people that I've seen on like My 600 Pound Life and things like that. And it just made me really sad that could be like the reality of Tammy's situation. And it also just like makes me think a lot about how Tammy was literally just in the hospital for COVID and pneumonia. Like, how lucky is she to still be here? Like, it's just so wild to me. And then on top of that, Amy says things like, you're gonna miss my son's graduation, which a lot of you pointed out in my comments section from my video on Monday that slipped out. And so when she's out here posting like, oh, when I find out the gender of my baby, and then she's out here saying my son's graduation, that's sad. Like, I want Tammy to be there for her nephew's life. Like, I want her to get to experience that, like, really, truly. So that was pretty much the episode. I definitely, while I was watching, had some tears. I won't say I was like bawling or anything, but my eyes were definitely watering. I enjoyed the episode for what it's worth. I hope you all did too. I've just like really enjoyed watching the show, even 2 episodes into the new season. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. What was your favorite part of the episode? What was your least favorite part of the episode? I'd love to hear it all. If this is your first time on my channel, I hope you'll consider subscribing and hitting the bell button so you get notifications. And as always, make sure to live, laugh, love, like, comment, share, and follow me on all of my social media. I had so much fun with y'all today. I hope you did too, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!